Hey, Rusto, I'm hoping saying that your name correctly, Rusto. Uh, this is Michael with Michael's Business English. You reached out to me about feedback for your resume. So I'm gonna go through here quickly and go through your resume. I actually did pull it through Grammarly, so I'll talk about that in a minute. But first thing, before we even do that, I just wanted to go through your email because you said something I thought was interesting. So your backstory is interesting in the sense that uh, the first thing I want to point out is you want to be a QA tester or software developer, so I'm going to keep that in mind. But what was interesting is that your friend told you to delete operation manager or convert it to tester, and you don't want to lie in your resume. So let me address that real quick. Um, I agree with you that you should not lie in your resume. My thoughts are that it may not be lying to change your title, and that's something we can cover in the future. I'll tell you that's a very gray area. That's something you have to kind of identify for yourself. But if you go to my profile, well, I guess you can't go to my profile now because they changed it. But it used to say experienced analyst financial services was my title, experienced analyst financial services. And that's an example of what you can do is you can do like, for example, experienced QA tester, experienced software developer, food for thought. The other thing I want to tell you is that titles change, right? So like I wouldn't get too hung up on your titles per se, if it makes sense. So my very first job, I have it my resume is called accounting assistant, but that's not the actual title. It was actually called account payables coordinator, but a recruiter told me to change it to accounting assistant. Is it lying? I don't know. Um, Technically, the job title is not that, but at the end of the day, I don't think the titles are as important because at the end of the day, everyone knows that the title that you have may not be the title that's in the system. And it can be kind of confusing if you go to an HR software. But we can talk about that another time because that's a weird thing. It's a weird case. But I just want to get that out there. Just think about that in that way. Like it's not necessarily lying to change your title. Just keep that in mind. I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying keep that in mind. Um, Help me, I believe in you for the operation manager position. So the other thing that came out that I want to talk about in this email was that it seems like someone one of businessmen offered me this position. I accepted it. Uh, Meaning, like, so the impression I got is that someone in your network gave you an offer. And my question to you is, have you spoken to your network about this, about your desire to go back to IT? Because it's very possible you may not even need a resume. You may just be able to talk to the people in your company and just say, hey, you know what? Like, I love working here, but I really want to do IT stuff. Now, not saying not you must do that. Not saying that that's the best answer. I'm saying that's a possibility. Because especially internally, like employers don't want people to leave. So it might be an option for you to go to your employer, go to your boss, or just go to your network. I'm not sure if you're still the businessman is someone you know, but it might be a possibility to go back and say, hey, you know what? I'd really like to stay in this company, but I want to be in IT. Is that possible? Is there an option? There are reasons why you wouldn't want to do that because, depending on the employer you work for, they might just let you go if you tell them you're not interested in the job you have. So that's something to consider too. But that's something I thought I'd throw out there just in case, because it sounds like you have a kind of relationship with this person where you can kind of talk to them about that. So I would consider that just FYI. Like you might be able to just not have to go for a job hunt, go this big old jump hunt. Excuse me, I'm going all over the place. You may not have to go on a job search and go find a new job. Maybe just go talk to your employer and just say, hey, I'd like to work as an IT. Is that possible? Not saying that's going to happen. Not saying that's the best idea. Like you're the best judge of that character. You're the best person to know if your employer is got has got the environment for that. So I keep that in mind. The other thing I want to talk about is a Grammarly finding. So I use something called Grammarly to go through people's resumes. I won't go into details. There's stuff that we can kind of go in here, but you can see right away you have 43 alerts. Now there are different things that can be adjusted. So for example, there's gonna be certain things where it's not really a problem. So I saw, for example, let me find a sprint, right? Here's a good one. So Grammarly test, the reason Grammarly is so important, by the way, is that it doesn't just test for grammatical error, it tests for reading comprehensiveness. Like, does it actually make sense to a reader, or is it just kind of like, is it, because Microsoft Word or Google Docs, it will check the spelling to say, oh, is this correct? It might check some grammar, but it's still not going to do it to the level of AI is going to do it. And even further, it won't do it to the level that a person will do it. So, for example, you'll see that sprint is labeled as an issue here, right? But I know now it's actually it's saying it's saying it's an engagement issue. It says here that your resume is a bit bland and we should make it more interesting. However, what I know, and I think you know this, is that you've done project management. You talked about agile. So you're going to see it says sprint should be called race, but you and I both know we can't change it to race because sprint is what agile is called. When you're doing agile projects right here, like it's not actually called sprint, it's called race. But just keep that in mind because I'm going to send you this report that has all these errors, and you can go through and start making adjustments. But there will be some of these errors that are not actually errors. So I'll send you the report in a few minutes once we finish this call, and I'm going to go to the actual resume now. I did notice on your resume you had questions, so I'm going to address those questions when I get to them. So the first thing that I noticed on your resume is you don't have a summary, right? You don't necessarily need an executive summary, you don't need a professional summary, but I don't see why not. You know what I mean? Like you already have one on your LinkedIn. Let me pull it up actually. Yeah, so like I saw your LinkedIn profile. I didn't go through it very thoroughly, but you already have an about me section. You could probably copy and paste this and then run it through Grammarly to make it updated. And especially for the IT industry, for information technology, for QA, one of my students, his name is Phone. If you go to my profile, you actually see like let me just do it for this. Um, I'll show you next time, actually. But one of my students is a software, he wants to be a DevOps, he's a software engineer in Miramar, Asia. And what we did for him was we put the skills on top. Like, so it's something called a combo resume style. I'll show you that. I'll actually send you the template so you have it. But I found that to be the most attractive in the IT industries that they really want to see, like, one, they want to see a summary sometimes. Sometimes they don't, depends on the employer, but it's worth just having 3 to 4 sentences about who you are, what you do, what your interests are, what kind of job do you want? Do you want a full-time job? Do you want a part-time job? Why are you switching from one industry to another if that applies, which I don't know if that applies to you. But you also have a section, let's go through that. But I'll send you the template in a minute. It's already 7 minutes into this call, this video. So let's see, develop. So the big thing, let me go back to your email, was that you want to go into IT. That's wrong. Let me pull it up. You want to transition back to IT, was my understanding. You're a QA. You want to find work as a QA tester, software developer, and IT engineer. But right now you're doing operations manager to convert testers. Let me see. So experience Silicon Valley. So you're in New Jersey right now. So here's something else to point out too, right? Like um, July 2019. I'm kind of jumping guns here, but some quick feedback. Like you want things to be consistent on your resume. So you can see you have July 2019 to present, but you have Jan to let's see, what was I going to say? The format. So you have July spelled out. It's not a big deal. It's 4 letters instead of three, but you should stick with 3 letters is what I'm saying, right? So you have 3 letters here, 3 letters here. This should also be 3 letters, right? This should also be 3 letters. So instead of July, it should be Jewel. It's not a big deal. It's a small format thing, but just FYI. Let's see what else there is. I would also put in the city and state, not just state, because you're saying New Jersey. Like, I'm assuming like you're still in LA, so I assume like that's where it kind of threw me off, by the way, because I thought from your profile, um, you're in Louisiana. So I know it says gonna like audit your resume, but understand you're in Louisiana right now, right? Like it's confusing. An employer is probably going to look at your LinkedIn profile, just FYI, because um, it's just easier for many people. That's not always the case. Depends on how you apply for jobs, but there's a good chance they're going to look at your resume. So you're saying, yeah, so yeah, Baton Rouge, yeah, Louisiana. Sorry, so in Louisiana. So it's New Jersey and Louisiana. Are you doing something else? Are you based in? So this is why the summary is so important. By the way, this is my opinion, but like I don't know where you are. I don't know if you're looking for remote work. I don't know if you're looking for part-time work. I don't know if you're looking for full-time work. This is all kind of like I don't know that from reading your resume. You know what I mean? So I would consider putting in the professional summary from your LinkedIn profile, or just making one from scratch, whatever you want. So quick feedback on your resume. So ignoring the grammarly errors, the things, what I'm going to say is that I see a lot of things that you did. I don't see a lot of achievements. You know what I mean? Like developed automation framework using that's decent, but this seems to be run off. And I'm guessing this is part of one sentence. So that's a problem, right? Like I think that's two sentences. I'm guessing this is all part one sentence though. Developed automation framework using Selenium, WebDriver, Java Unit, Cucumber application for testing. So like I would, that's the format issue. I'm guessing because you have a bullet here that probably shouldn't be a bullet. So it looks like this is one sentence. Um, I would add like how many programs how many programs of this like developed automation framework? Like how many frameworks did you build? Right? So if you're in quality assurance, it's possible that you probably built more than one framework. If you only built one framework, then what I was asking you is like, what was the benefit of it? So, for example, developed automation framework using this, and this for application UI testing that reduced process time or maybe improved accuracy. So maybe your automation framework, like why did you develop an automation framework? What's the benefit of it? You know what I mean? Like, um, so add some achievements there, add some quantitative achievements or qualitative achievements. Participate in daily scrum, sprint review, sprint retro meetings. So I'm seeing a lot of like things you did, like efficiently log and track defects using Jira. Um, so what else there's involved in designing test, executed manual test the system. I'm seeing a lot of like this is what I did, and what I immediately see is like I need to see more of what accomplishments did you accomplish? What things make you separate? Because resume does two things. One, it shows that you can do the job, and two, it shows you're better than the competition. So right now, like what I'm seeing is like maybe you can do a job, but I don't know like if you're better than everyone else. You know what I mean? Like I'm not seeing the achievements there. It's kind of like you just copy the job. It's like you copy the job description, but I don't know how you're significant in that. Does that make sense? So it's already 12 minutes in. Let's see what else I can do. Design, control, and manage the technical process, operational integrity. Let me back up a sec. So you were told to get rid of the operation manager. Are you talking about operation manager? So one thing you can do here, I'm going to go out and limit say operation manager. So if you don't want to lie, you could add the department. So operation manager, like what was the group name? Operation manager in IT. Like what was the actual group that you were responsible for? So if you go to my LinkedIn profile, you'll see like business analyst, metadata operations, or analytic consultant, report management, information tech, something. It's called it's REMI for short. That's a bank lingo for like very niche kind of jargon. But the point I'm making is like don't just say operation manager. Say operation manager of the line of business. So operations manager. You develop software, so I would assume the operations IT security maybe that I'm just randomly guessing things, right? But like I would add some other qualifier here that you can use to say I'm not just an operations manager. I'm an operations manager that handles IT stuff. Operations manager uh, for service desk. Full disclosure, I don't have an IT background. I've actually helped people with IT backgrounds, but I'm still not like in the weeds. Like I don't know all the jargon and stuff. So I'm familiar with like Python and C++ and some of the other like the Hadoop and all that. There's tons of them, right? But like to conduct cost benefit. Yeah, this sounds more like a job description as opposed to an achievement. So I would say like, what was the benefit? Conduct cost benefit, and it should be past tense, by the way. So like, see, Grammarly didn't pick it up because it doesn't realize it's supposed to be in the past tense. But when you're talking about things that have happened in the past, see, this happened in July 2019, it should be in the past tense. So instead of conduct, it should be conducted because you did it in the past. Now, technically speaking, like I like to make everything in the past tense too, because you see how this is, even though it's present, because you technically did it in the past, you did it previously. Maybe you did it that job you did it in the past, but you see again, there's a consistency issue where you have past tense here, you have a present tense here. So I would go through those and make those present tense. Maintain, update knowledge, technical specifications, functions, requirements, mentor and monitor a technical team, IT consultant, manual test, manual. This is spelled wrong, so it shouldn't be manual. It should be manual. I just know that. The reason that Grammarly didn't pick up manual as wrong is because manual is a name, like Manuel is an actual person's name. So that's why I didn't catch it because it didn't understand the relation behind it. Um, this is cool. I like how you have this background, experience in developing, maintain. Although I think his cases, well, actually, I think you can get rid of this. Experience in developing, maybe like so I used to do summaries like this, but I get the feeling that you're really just going to repeat everything on your bullet. So when I did summaries like this for my resume, you won't see it anymore because I don't. There's no room in my resume. You would see like something like this, but it would explain the company that I worked at. So what I would do instead of just doing a summary of what you did, I would say what is an overdue, which you may not have room for, but like it's. I think it's important to explain your background so you can show industry knowledge that way. Create, test it. Again, you got created, test, plan, and script manually. Reviewed business requirements, module review test requirements. You can see a lot of Grammarly errors. This is all these are punctuation. See, add a comma, add a comma, add a comma. Involved, involved in UAT testing, functional testing, user acceptance testing. Involved in UAT testing. So, like, involved in UAT testing is very passive, which is interesting because you're a consultant. So I would think you'd have more an active role. Because what does a consultant do? A consultant comes in and they fix things. So instead of involved in UAT testing, SIT testing, regression testing, and functional testing, and you have user acceptance testing again. Unless UAT testing has two different meanings, right? Like UAT. What I would suggest to you is like again more achievement based, like um, improved qualify. So I would assume quality assurance efforts, right? So like I improved or reduced errors. Now, mind you, like I have to do more research on this. What's this one? To identify the achievements that you did. But I would focus more on it. I think for you, the number one thing is the grammar things, and two, achievements, like more achievements. Like what makes you different from another IT engineer? Like, go back to your email. Um, what makes you different, for example, from sorry, my computer's lagging. What makes you different from another software developer? What makes you different from another QA tester? Because right now, when I read your resume, what I get the impression is that you're basically like everyone else. Tell me the achievements you did. Tell me like what was it that you did that you accomplished? What was it about the testing that was so important? Like involved in like is it a consent order of some kind? It's already 20 minutes. I'm trying to wrap this up. The other thing I would say is that your resume I think is too long. You probably don't need. I think it'll yeah to provide develop like you have a bunch of bullets in here they're not helping you at all. Like to provide demo this is a useless bullet. You know what I mean? Like why? To give feedback to companies to manage. Like there's lots of bullets here that this is I don't get what you're doing here. So like I would try to clean up your resume so it's down to 2 pages. Let's see. And let me go address your questions real quick because it's already 18 minutes in. Um, Python. Um, I would I wouldn't put Python here. If you're going to talk about, because of, your experience, like this is talking about coursework makes more sense when you're like kind of 0 to 2 years of work experience, right? When you don't have work experience, it makes sense to highlight college. Instead, what I would do is I put Python into your skills. With that being said, let me scroll up to your skills. All these skills, like I would just want to double check, like how relevant are they to the jobs you're applying for, right? So like Jira, for example, I know of Jira, but my question is like, did you actually create code in Jira or did you just enter data in Jira? Because like that's a big difference, right? If you're a software developer who has Jira experience, they're gonna want to know like what kind of things have you built? What kind of pages have you built in Jira? That's a pretty important thing to understand. So any skills you put in this section, make sure that you can explain it because and get ready to be tested on it too. So for example, like SQL, like they'll probably get tested on SQL. Um, So I would look for YouTube videos on Prove It tests that you would get for these. You may not, it depends on how you apply. Like I go through a lot of contract jobs, and they have us take these tests. So you may want to go through that. I know LinkedIn offers like skills-based tests that you can take. Awards. So I do have an article on International Magazine. So awards for the article, that depends on the article. It depends on what the article was about. So as an example, if the article said that, if the article featured you, Rustu, as like Rustu has done this amazing accomplishment, or we're celebrating Rustu for something important, then you can put that in the awards section. Um, Languages, English fluent, Turkish native. Um, Let me ask you this. Um, are you getting asked by employers to, like, are any of the employers you're going to asking for a language proficiency test? Because if you're applying, if you're in America right now, and you're a permanent resident per your email, per your resume, you probably don't need to explain the language thing. Like, we're going to assume you're English based on the fact that you're writing in English. The same thing with the Turkish stuff. Like, that's probably only going to be relative if the employer is specifically looking for someone who's fluent in both English and Turkish. You know what I mean? Like, there are possibilities of that happening, but other than that, I don't know if you. I'm just saying, like, I think it's fine, but it may not. The Turkish thing may not be necessary. It might just, what I'm saying is, I don't think it's a big deal either way. Just keeping thoughts on, just putting my thoughts out there. It would depend on the employer, but I wouldn't. I don't know if I would put languages in here unless your employer is specifically asking for that. Because you're in America, we're going to assume that you speak English because we can read that you're writing your stuff in English. You're communicating me in English. All right. It's been over 20 minutes now. Let me see if I got all your skills or your questions. So I got the article. I got the education. Was there another one? I'm sure I got all your questions. Did I get all your questions? Electrical and electrical engineering, bachelor's of science. Let's see. Yeah. So okay. I think that's enough for now. I think that's enough good information. I think you have some stuff you should do. So I'm going to go ahead and end this video in a minute. I'm going to send you an email with a link to this video. I'm going to have to upload it to YouTube because it's going to be quite big to process it. Let's see what else there is. Um, Next steps. So if you would like help, like if you'd like me to actually redo your resume for you, or you like coaching with me. So, for example, if you want to talk about like what are the next steps for you instead of just like your resume, like what's your process for your job search, how are you going to look for a job, we can get on a call and we can talk about how that would look like. If you're not on my email list already, make sure you get on my email list. You can just go to my profile and there's a. Let me show you my. No, in fact, let me show you a quick while I'm here. So if you just go to my profile, there's two ways to get in contact with me. That might be most helpful for you. Go to my profile. So one, I have a free checklist that you can check out, and it just lets you get on my email list. And that allows you. It's going to go into a little bit more detail. It's more high level stuff, but at the same time, it'll go into more details about some of the points that I made. Let's see. Yeah, so part of the reason my computer is lagging is because I'm trying to record this on a laptop that's not intended to record videos. So that's my mistake. To make sure I get that fixed. So yeah, if you go to my profile, you can get on my email list by clicking on this button. You click on it, it'll open up a pop-up, and you just go to view, and it'll open up a new link. There you go. Just gets you a checklist. You just submit your email, and it'll put you on my email list. And that way you can get my checklist. You can also stay up to date with anything I'm offering. Because right now I have a bunch of videos on YouTube, and you can go check out those videos. If you have any additional questions, you can get some feedback that way. If you want to, oh, what the heck is going on here? Um, if you want to get a call with me, you can click on this button right here. You see the one that says Michael's Business English, and lets you just schedule a quick call. You just click here. And it lets you get into my calendar. You can just there'll be some questions about English lessons. it's because primarily we're a language and communication school. You just pick a time, right? You just pick a time, just select it, and you just fill out the form, tell us a little about you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and you just complete appointment. All right, that's it. I'll send you all this shortly. Thank you. Talk to you soon.